If you are still doubtful that soon the world will face a day of worship that will be imposed on them, soon the whole world will be forced to honor a certain day as a day of rest globally, a global day of rest, a global day of worship. If you still doubt that, if you still don't believe that, I have news for you today. I have news for you today. Soon the whole world will be forced to worship on Sunday, to rest on Sunday. No business, no transaction, nothing is to be done on Sunday but to go to church, spend time with family. It will be a federal law, it will be a national Sunday law, it will be a global Sunday law. What am I talking about? Let's look at what is happening. Now, I want to talk about the Shabbat 250 there on your screen. As you can see, Shabbat 250. President proclaims National Shabbat honoring America's 250th birthday. So, in order to celebrate the America's 250 years birthday, they are calling for the nation of America to observe a Sabbath, Shabbat 250. President proclaims National Shabbat honoring America's 50th birthday. Right. Let me continue reading. It says here, for the first time in American history, a sitting president has called on the nation to observe a Sabbath. President Donald Trump designated the period from sundown Friday, May 15, through nightfall Saturday, May 16, as a national Shabbat dubbed Shabbat 250. Right. Now, you can see here, okay, in special honor of 250 glorious years of America's independence, and on the weekend of rededication 250, a national jubilee of prayer, praise, and thanksgiving. Jewish Americans are encouraged to observe a national Shabbat. All right. So this is the president of America declaring that May 15 through nightfall, Saturday, May 16, as a national Shabbat. Okay, as a national Sabbath. So all the Jews are expected to honor the Sabbath from May 15 sundown to May 16 sundown. All right, because we know biblically the Sabbath starts from sundown and ends at starts from sunset and it ends on sunset the following day. So the president of the United States of America has, for the first time, a sitting president has mandated a day of worship, has told the whole nation to observe a Sabbath, all right, to observe a Sabbath. This is breaking news. This is new. This happened 2 days ago. I mean, May 4th. This was reported on May 4th, May the 4th. All right. Now, I want us to understand that he talks about Jewish Americans are encouraged to observe a national Sabbath. The president wrote. All right. Okay. And some of you, you say, well, this is good. This is good. Now, before you say this is good, let's read on. Let's read on. It says here, this day will recognize the sacred Jewish tradition of setting aside time for rest, reflection, and gratitude to the Almighty. Shabbat 250, in honor of America's 250th birthday, it is a beautiful idea. It's the perfect opportunity to unplug and connect with God, your family, and your community in real and meaningful way. So we're being told here that this day, it's a sacred Jewish tradition of setting aside time of rest, reflection, gratitude to the Almighty. All right. Okay. But if, okay, let me read on. Let me read on. Let me read on. It is a beautiful idea. It's the perfect opportunity to plug and connect with God, your family, and your community in a real and meaningful way. So this is why they're saying we are going to have a Shabbat 250, okay? So that we can connect with God, so that we can thank him, connect with family, connect with our community in a real meaningful way. So that's the purpose of this Sabbath 250. Now, if you don't understand yet, America is celebrating its 250th year, right? As independence, the independence of the United States of America, 250 years. So America has been independent for 250 years, and to celebrate that, they are calling the nation, the entire nation of America, to observe the Sabbath. All right, to observe the Sabbath, sit down at home, spend time with your family, go to church, do something godly. Okay, all right. Let's continue. A national Sabbath. Why all Americans should mark the 250th birthday. Okay, 250th celebration. Okay, the Times of Israel. The Times of Israel. This is what the Times of Israel reported on the 5th of May. By the way, this episode was supposed to be aired yesterday, but we got busy yesterday and we did not have time to go live. Even now, we're not live. So, to those of you who are used to us being live, we're supposed to share this information live, but I don't have time this week. So, let's go. Let's go. A national Shabbat. Why all Americans should mark the 250th celebration. It says here, the Times of Israel, it says, these represent a landmark moment in American history. While U.S. presidents have a long tradition of issuing proclamations for national days of prayer or general religious holidays, this 2026 proclamation is the first time a U.S. president has issued a formal call for a national Sabbath to be observed by the Jewish people specifically, to honor American independence. It marks a significant departure from standard executive practice, integrating a specific Jewish religious observance into the formal framework of the nation's 250th anniversary. So Israel is saying this is for the first time. Yes, American president, they do have the tendency of proclaiming, national days of prayer or general religious day. But this 2026 proclamation is the first time a U.S. president has issued a formal call for a national Sabbath. It is for the first time the president has issued a formal call for a national Sabbath. That should sink into your mind. For the first time, a sitting president in the USA has announced, has proclaimed a national day, issued a formal call for a national Sabbath. In other words, the whole nation, the entire nation is to observe this Sabbath. All right? The entire nation is to observe this Sabbath. Remember, we've been talking about a national Sunday law that will come, and everyone will be forced to stop work on Sunday. Everybody will be forced to stop work and not to do anything on Sunday. And we even went as far to say that Sunday is the mark of the beast. If you remember our previous videos, we said that Sunday is the mark of the beast. Now you're going to say, but they're not talking about Sunday, they're talking about Sabbath. Wait for it, it's coming. Because you know that in the USA, majority of people are Christians, all right? Not Jewish, not Jewish. Majority of people are Christians, not Jewish. Majority of people they go to church on Sunday, not Saturday, because Shabbat is Saturday, Sabbath is Saturday. May 15 to May 16, that is Saturday, is the Sabbath day. All right. So the Jews are called to observe this Shabbat from May 15 to May 16. All right, sunset May 15 until sunset May 16. The Jewish people are commanded or are called upon to honor the Sabbath in celebration of the 250th anniversary or 250 celebration of America's independence. Okay, what about Christians? All right, we're gonna come to that. And it says here, uh, this Shabbat to be observed by the Jewish people specifically to honor American independence. So the Sabbath, May 15 through May 16, is for the Jews. Okay, it's for the Jews. This is what they say. All right, let's continue. A national Shabbat. Why all Americans should mark the 250th anniversary or celebration. The proclamation is inexorably linked to the Rededicate 250 initiative, a broader national jubilee described as a weekend of prayer. A weekend of prayer. A weekend of prayer, praise, and thanksgiving for the nation's 250 years of freedom. However, if we are to truly honor the essence of the Sabbath, and the spirit of this milestone, that celebration must extend its reach. All right? So if we're to honor And then this Sabbath, it says now that celebration must extend its reach. This Sabbath should not just be a Jewish event, it should be a clarion call to non-Jews across the nation. Okay, so this Sabbath should not just be Jewish event, it should be a clarion call to non-Jewish people across the nation. Now, like we said, that only Jews honor the Sabbath, all right, which is Saturday, the seventh day of the week, all right, and that is the biblical day of worship, all right. That is the biblical day of worship. But they're saying now, not only should this day be celebrated by the Jews in keeping the Sabbath, the seventh day of the week, but it should be extended, okay, to non-Jews across the nation. Who are the non-Jews? Christians, all right? Christians. In other words, if we're extending it to Christians, it will mean that May 17th will be a Sabbath for Christians. So the Jews will honor May 15 to 16, okay? Because the Sabbath will begin sunset May 15 and it will end at sunset in May 16. Then from May 17, that's when Sunday begins, all right? And they're saying the Jews will honor this celebration on the Sabbath day, the seventh day of the week, which will be from sunset May 15 to sunset May 16. And then Christians will have their own Sabbath on May 17. So it appears that we have two Sabbath here. All right. We have two Sabbath here, and both Sabbath will be taken or will be handled with speciality. All right. Let's continue. Let's continue. A national Shabbat, why all Americans should mark the 250th celebration of America's independence. It says here, it says to bridge this political moment with our shared spiritual heritage, we must look deeper at the foundation of the Sabbath itself. The Sabbath is the perfect vessel for America's the Sabbath is the perfect vessel for America semi-quincentennial. Crucially, Crucially, the Exodus was not a liberation of the descendants of Jacob alone. It included a mixed multitude of non-Jews who left Egypt alongside them. So they're saying the fact that we are celebrating the Sabbath, this Sabbath will be extended to even non-Jews, okay? Non-Jews. Just like the Exodus in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, was not only for the descendants of Jacob alone, but also mixed multitude. So they are saying the Jews will rightly celebrate this independence on the Sabbath day, the seventh day of the week. Then others, the rest of the people or the mixed multitude, will celebrate it on Sunday. Two Sabbath or 2 days have been set apart. All right. All right. And it goes on to say, a national Shabbat, why all Americans should mark the 250. It says all Americans should mark. And look who's speaking there. Israel is speaking. Look who's speaking there. Remember, we've been saying that America has been captured by Israel. We said Trump is captured by Israel. We said Trump is controlled by Israel. And you can see today what is happening. Now, this is Times of Israel reporting this. And this is Times of Israel speaking. By the way, I've been quoting from Times of Israel for the four previous slides which you saw there. Now, this is what Israel is saying. Interestingly, Isaiah 66 is the same chapter that asks, can a nation be born in a day? Since May 14, 1948, the 5th of Iyar 5708, we have witnessed the modern unfolding of that prophecy in the land of the covenant, Israel. Yet the resonance of this prophecy extends beyond the borders of the Levant. The United States, too, is a nation rooted in the concept of covenant. As we approach this milestone, we must realize that the preservation of this covenant is a duty shared by every citizen. Next Shabbat should mark more than just a 250-year-old memory. It should be a celebration of responsible freedom. It is an opportunity for all Americans, Jews and non-Jews alike, to stand in the gap for one another. It is a moment to commit to rebuilding communities on the margins and strengthening the American family. So, yes, Mr. President, let the Jewish people lead the way next Shabbat. So, this Shabbat or this celebration is led by the Jews. It's not led by the Americans, it is led by the Jews. All right. So when we said Israel controls America, when we said Netanyahu controls Trump, this is what we meant. And a lot of you were saying, nah, man, that is impossible. It cannot be. How can the great America be controlled by Israel? You see now, you're going to have a Shabbat. You're going to have a Sabbath. There's a national Sabbath that has been proclaimed by a sitting president, Donald Trump, and the entire population of America, because it doesn't matter whether you're a Jew or non-Jew. Who are the non-Jews? Christians are non-Jews. Muslims are non-Jews. Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, everyone. As long as you're not a non-Jew, you are expected to keep the Sabbath. So they're extending the Sabbath to Sunday. So Sunday, it will be your opportunity as a non-Jewish people to keep these national Sabbath. All right, let's go. Now, how did it come about that Christians worship on Sunday? Because the true Sabbath day is the seventh day of the week, which is Saturday. So Saturday is the true seventh day. Okay, it is the true Sabbath. All right. Remember, in the Bible, the days of the week are not named. Only 2 days of the weeks are named. Okay, it is Friday. Friday in the Bible is referred to as the preparation day or the day of preparation, and then Saturday, which is the seventh day of the week, it's referred to as the Sabbath. It's called the Sabbath. So only 2 days are named in the Bible: the sixth day of the week and the seventh day of the week. The sixth day of the week is called preparation day. The seventh day of the week is called the Sabbath day. So on the sixth day of the week, we are preparing for the Sabbath. And then the seventh day is the actual Sabbath. So only these 2 days are named in the Bible. There's no Monday in the Bible, no Tuesday in the Bible, no Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no Sunday in the Bible. That was done by the Romans. All right. So in history, on March 7th, in the year 321 AD, March 7, 321 AD, on this day, now we're looking on this day in history, on this day in the year 321, Constantine decreed the day of the sun as the day of rest. Constantine decreed the day of the sun as the day of rest. Which day is the day of the sun? Which day is the day of the sun? The day of the sun is Sunday. The day of the sun is Sunday. So before Constantine decreed the day of the sun as a day of rest, nobody was worshiping on Sunday. No Christians were worshiping on Sunday. I know a lot of people are saying, no, we worship on Sunday because the Christians in the Bible, they worshiped on Sunday. No, there's no such thing in the Bible. You will have no record in the Bible of Christians worshiping on Sunday. It does not exist. There is no text in the Bible that even seemed to suggest that the day of worship was changed in the Bible from Saturday to Sunday. No such thing in the Bible. You will not find it. All right. It was in the year 321 by the decree of Constantine, who decreed the day of the sun as the day of rest, replacing the Sabbath. The change was not made in the Bible. The change was made long time ago, before the books of the Bible were completed. All right. So the change, it's not biblical. So that's why you're going to have 2 Sabbaths here. You have the Sabbath, the seventh day of the week, the biblical Sabbath, which the Jews observe. And you have the Sabbath, the fake Sabbath, Sunday. Sunday is the fake Sabbath because Sunday was decreed by a man, Constantine, as a day of rest. All right. All right. Let's continue. Vance Haley is the most influential Trump advisor you have probably never heard of. Okay, let's find something about Vince Haley. It says here Vince Haley is taking the lead on health policy, drug price, transparency, energy, and housing, according to administration officials, as well as other projects important to president, such as America 250 birthday and a commission on religious liberty. Colleagues said Haley's Catholic faith is a driving force. So who is behind this Sabbath? The Roman Catholic is behind this Sabbath, both the Jewish Sabbath and both the Sunday Sabbath. The Roman Catholic Church is behind. Remember, we also told you that not only does Israel control America, but we said the papacy controls Israel. So we said the papacy is in charge. The papacy is in charge, all right? Because this birthday celebration, the one who is behind it is a Catholic. And when we said that the Catholics run the show, the papacy runs the show, many people said, no, never, never, never. The Catholic doesn't run the show. The papacy doesn't run the show. Remember when the Pope and Trump had a public war, and I said that the Trump is not attacking the Pope. Trump is introducing the Pope to the world. Remember, when Trump attacks the Pope, then Trump gives more attention to the Pope, and people will cover what Trump said about the Pope, and people will begin to follow the Pope. I said the war between Trump and the Pope, when Trump was attacking the Pope, I said it is not an attack because these two, they're working together. All right? These two are working together. Donald Trump and the Pope are besties, are friends. They work together because papacy runs Israel. Israel runs the USA. All right, and the USA in turn runs the whole world. Okay, so this is how it works. The papacy is in control. The papacy controls Israel. Israel controls America. America controls the entire world. That's how the power. Remember, America is the world superpower. Okay, America is the world superpower. Okay, all right. So the whole world is controlled by America. I wish I had more time. I wish I had more time to break it down for you. So we know that this project is controlled by the Catholics. We know that this 250 celebration, this 250 anniversary, this 250 Shabbat, we know it comes from the papacy. We know it comes from the Catholic because they said, Vince Haley's colleagues said, Haley's Catholic faith is a driving force. So this is that it's driven by the Catholic, okay, Catholic faith. And what is the Catholic faith? Which Sabbath do the Catholic keep? Do they keep Saturday, the seventh day of the week? No. Which Sabbath do the Catholic keep? The Catholic Church keeps the Sunday, which is not biblical. All right, Sunday it's a manufacturing, or Sunday it's a Catholic's baby because Constantine was a Roman. And when Constantine decreed, he was doing it as the leader of the Roman Empire. And we know that the Roman Empire was both a state power and a religious power. We know that church and state in the Roman Empire were combined. So the leader of the state was also the leader of the church, just like you have the Pope today. The Pope is both the leader of a state and the leader of the church. So religion, it's a religio-political power. All right. All right. So you have the Pope today. The Pope today is a leader of the Vatican. Vatican is the state. Vatican is a nation. And Vatican is a nation. Not only is Vatican a nation, but the Vatican is the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church. And both the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican, the leader is the Pope. So the Pope is both the leader of the Vatican nation, Vatican country, and the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. So Constantine operated in that space because this man was a leader of the state and also controlled worship control. That's why he could decree the day of worship, because he had authority to do so. He was both the head of the church and the head of the nation. All right, he was both the head of the church and the head of the nation. So history will repeat itself. History will repeat itself. So when we talk about Sunday laws, when we talk about the mark of the beast is Sunday worship by law. And currently we have the first Sunday worship, okay? First Sunday worship proclamation by a sitting president. I can tell you from here, it will be a decree again, just like Constantine decreed. America will decree a Sunday law, a national Sunday law, and it will move from being a national Sunday law to a Sunday global law, where all nations of the world will be forced to honor Sunday, to rest on Sunday, spend time with family. And that decree, Sunday decree, will be the mark of the beast. Upon refusing to go to a church on Sunday, you will not be able to buy or sell. So when we talk about the mark of the beast, we mean Sunday worship will be the mark of the beast. Remember, a beast represents a nation. A beast in prophecy represents a nation. So the mark of the beast, it's coming. It's coming. Let's go. Exclusive. A look into Trump's plan for Rededicate 250, a day of worship on the National Mall. A day of worship. All right, let's go. It says White House Director of Domestic Policy Council Vince Haley spoke with the Daily Caller about these upcoming events. He shared how he hopes to redirect the country into one that prays for its leaders and adheres to the pledge of one nation under God. The event will not just be a day of prayer, Haley explained, but a day of worship through speech and song, and a day of giving thanks for country's history of success and prosperity. We want to support a culture in which people feel emboldened to live out their faith and go to church. They want you to go to church. They want you to live out your faith. I can tell you it will be by law in future. Now it's just a proclamation, but in future it will be a law. It will be a decree, just like in 321 AD. It will be a decree. Now it's just a proclamation. They want you to go to church. Even when you don't want to go to church, they want you to go to church. All right. I'm reading from Saving America by Saving the Family, a foundation for the next 250 years. This is the Heritage Foundation. You remember, the Heritage Foundation is busy. The Heritage Foundation is busy. The Heritage Foundation is the one who's been covering the whole month, the whole March, the whole March. We're presenting Project 2025. And we said Project 2025 is the Heritage Foundation's document. Project 2025, a presidential transition, all right? Presidential transition. And we said that the war we see in Iran, it is rooted in Project 2025. It was the Project 25 document that told us that the enemy of the United States were Venezuela, Iran, China, Russia, North Korea. And Trump has been told or commanded in Project 2025 to eliminate Venezuela, Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea. And we've been saying this. You can see again, the Heritage Foundation is also behind a Sunday worship. Now, listen to what they say. They say a uniform day of rest that limits commercial activity can provide. I'm reading from the red words, the underlined red words. A uniform day of rest that limits commercial activity can provide temporal boundaries that help communities to set aside time for religious observance, family gatherings, outdoor activities, and rest. All right? So they want this unified day, a uniform day in which the whole world will sit down, all right? Set aside time for religious observance, family gatherings, outdoor activities, and rest. They want you to sit down. They want you to go to church. A Sunday national law is coming, whether you agree with it or you don't. They continue to say, additionally, greater preoccupation with and demand for consumer goods and experiences have raised the perceived opportunity cost of weekly worship on a weekend. as a retail and entertainment option have exploded. Blue law repeals have produced quasi-experimental evidence that when secular substitutes become more accessible, attendance and church giving drop, suggesting that a restoration of blue laws could have a restorative effect. Pressure to spend more time at work, either from careerism on one end or inflation on the other end, has reallocated evenings and weekends away from neighborhood organizations. All right. So they're saying that people are working 7 days a week and people have no time to rest. People have no time. So we're going to make sure that we set aside this day as a day of rest so that they can have time for their communities, have time for family gatherings, have time for rest, have time to go to church, have time to sit down and disconnect from the world. And people have stopped going to church because every day they're making money. Every day they want to make money. So church attendance have dropped. So we want everybody to go back to church. They continue to say cultural and behavioral obstacles to family formation. This section explores many of today's obstacles to family formation, from decline in church attendance to hookup culture to drug use. They want you to go to church. The Daily Signal. Now that Trump is president, he can remind America that Christ is king. So it has always been planned that this is what Trump has to do. Trump must make sure that remember when Trump was campaigning, he promised his followers that as soon as he becomes president, they will have more power like they've never had. He's going to give the church, he will give Christians more power than they've never. Now, the Catholic Church or the papacy wants a national Sunday law. The papacy wants everyone to honor Sunday. Remember, the entire world was forced to honor Sunday during the reign of papacy until the papacy was given a deadly wound. Now, the papacy wants to come back. We know that the papacy ruled from 538 AD to 1798 AD. 1,260 years, the papacy was in charge. The papacy was in power. And during the reign of the papacy for 1,260 years, and by the way, the number 1,260 years, it was prophesied in the book of Daniel, in the book of Revelation, that the papacy will rule the world for exactly 1,260 years. And the papacy ruled the world exactly for 1,260 years. I mean, prophecy is sweet. Prophecy is lovely. In the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, I can tell you for free now. If you still doubt the Bible to be truth, if you still doubt the Bible to be the inspired book, if you still doubt this Bible to be from God, I don't know. I don't know what will deliver you from that deception. I don't know what will deliver you from that intoxication, from that wine. You are drunk with the wine of Babylon. This book is fulfilling each day. Whatever God gave to Daniel in the book of Daniel, whatever God gave to John in the book of Revelation, it's fulfilling very rapidly, very rapidly. All right? Let's continue. It told us that the beast, the papacy, will think to change times and laws and will persecute the saints of God for 1,260 years in Daniel 7:25. And it happened exactly that. So we know who the beast is. We know what is the mark of the beast, because the Bible told us that this beast or this nation will think to change times and laws of God. And in the entire world, only the Roman Catholic Church, only the papacy has changed the times and the laws of God. How did the papacy change the time? Biblically, a day starts sunset. All right, biblically, the day starts at sunset. Okay, so when the sun sets, it's a new day, and when the sun sets is the end of the, okay, we start a new day. So you have 12 hours from sunset to sunset. It's one full day. All right, the Roman Catholic Church came and changed all that. We know now, everybody, we know that a day in our world today begins at midnight. When it's midnight, we say it's a new day. That's not biblical. Sunset, it's a new day, not midnight. So you can see that the Roman have changed that. What law have they changed? Go to the Ten Commandments. The Roman Catholic Church has removed the second commandment. The second commandment deals with idols. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the or that is in the earth, or that is in the waters. All right. So the papacy removed the second commandment. Not only did the papacy remove the second commandment, but the papacy changed the fourth commandment. The fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 7 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. The papacy changed the seventh day to the first day. So it is all prophesied in the Bible. It is all prophesied in the Bible that this is what will happen. And the papacy has done exactly that. And after the papacy did that, the Bible said the papacy will have a deadly wound. In other words, this kingdom of the papacy will not be destroyed, but it will only receive a deadly wound. And it said the deadly wound will be healed. And the one who's going to heal the deadly wound will be the United States of America. We are not surprised today when we see that the Roman Catholic Church or the papacy is behind the 250 Sabbath. And they're not pushing the seventh day Sabbath, they're pushing the first day Sabbath, which is it's a Catholic, it's a papal Sabbath. All right? They're not pushing the biblical Sabbath, they're pushing the papal Sabbath. We talk too much around here. All right, we talk too much around here. So let me end it here with the book of Revelation 13. The book of Revelation 13. This is what the Bible says in Revelation 13. It says, and he had power to give life. This is verse 15 to 17. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast will both speak and cause as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bound, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark of the beast, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So we are living in interesting times. We are living in the interesting time. National Day of Prayer, thousands of gatherings planned across USA. This is what it says here. This is from, as you can see on your screen, April 29, 2026. The 75th annual day of the 75th day National Day of Prayer will be observed Thursday, May 7, 2026, with thousands of gatherings planned across the United States. Events are expected nationwide, from Maine to Hawaii, as well as in U.S. territories, including Guam and the Virgin Islands. Events often include prayers of repentance, thanksgiving, and intercession. I mean, it has been happening, and there's nothing we can do about this. The papacy runs America. America runs the world. Again, let me give you the structure, the power, the real power. The real power is the papacy. Papacy is the power. Papacy controls Israel. Israel controls America. So papacy controls Israel, and papacy controls America through Israel, because the papacy should not be seen to be in charge. Because once the papacy is seen to be in charge, all of us, our eyes will be open, and we'll know that papacy is responsible for the war in Iran. Papacy is responsible for all these atrocities that are happening globally. So the papacy must use Israel, and Israel then use America. So this is how the powers are controlled in the world, and that is Bible. That is Bible. That is according to Bible. Okay, that is according to prophecy. According to prophecy, this is what is happening. The papacy is in charge of the United States of America. The papacy is in charge of the United States of America. So you're going to be celebrating Americans next or on May 15, 16, and 17, you will be honoring a national Shabbat, not because of Americans want it, but because of the papacy wants it. And the papacy wants it Sunday. We know from scriptures, Sunday, it's not biblical. It was in the year, let me close with this slide. It was in the year 321. It was in the year 321 AD. Let me close this with this. This day in history. Which day? March 7th, 321 AD. This day in history. It says, on this day in the year 321, Constantine decreed the day of the sun as the day of rest. It was the decree of Constantine that mandated Sunday as the day of rest. Failure to observe Sunday, it was punishable by death, imprisonment, your house taken. You were cut off from doing any business. You became the enemy of the state. In future, the United States of America will decree again the day of the sun as the day of rest. Which day will you honor? Will you honor the true biblical Sabbath, or you will honor the day of the sun? Sunday, 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 sun, S-U-N, day. So when Constantine says it's the day of the sun, it is indeed the day of the sun. On Sunday, the Romans were worshiping the sun god. And Christians today, they are fighting and protecting Sunday, saying, well, Sunday is the day of the Lord. No, Sunday is not the Lord's day. Sunday is the day of the sun. The name itself tells you. My people, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this one. We're going to do it live sometime in future. We're going to do it live sometime in future so we can be interacting and taking comment. Thank you so much for tuning in. America honors or observe a national Sabbath. 2 days have been set aside as Sabbath, Saturday and Sunday. One of these 2 days is the true Sabbath, and that day is Saturday. Sunday Sabbath is a false Sabbath. It's a Antichrist Sabbath. Have a lovely day. See you.